Every year in March, China hosts what is called the Lianghui, or the two sessions. The meeting of the Chinese Parliament, the National People's Congress, and the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, the NPC and the CPPCC. This year's two sessions were extra special. It's the first one under Xi Jinping's historic and unprecedented third term as Chinese president. It also reshuffled China's top ranks, including appointing a new prime minister, a new foreign minister, and a new defense minister. All eyes will be on two men, Wang Yi and Qin Gang, who are, for all practical purposes, the two top diplomats of China. One is the former foreign minister, and the other is the current foreign minister. They have been trying to balance China's ties with both the United States and Europe at a time when China is being seen firmly in the Russian corner during this ongoing Ukraine war. But there is one other thing that is affecting China internally before this meeting, before this year's two sessions. A record number of Chinese millionaires and billionaires are either fleeing the country or are under investigation by anti-corruption authorities. The latest being Bao Fan, who's the chairman and CEO of one of China's biggest investment banks, China Renaissance. In mid-February, he suddenly went missing. 10 days later, his company confirmed that their founder was under investigation by anti-corruption authorities. On Crux Decode, can China break free from the shackles both on the global stage as well as in its domestic economy? Can China unburden itself from being seen as Russia's biggest votary and thereby alienating both the United States and Europe? Can its domestic economy come back to the heydays before the pandemic, or will 5% be the new normal for China's GDP growth? And perhaps most importantly, can it stop tens of thousands of rich Chinese from fleeing the country, thereby sending the message that China is an unfriendly place for business? China's ties with the United States plummeted to new lows recently. Ironically, because of surveillance balloons which China was purportedly sending to spy on the US. There have been at least 4 such balloons which have been shot down by American security forces. China, though, denies that these were surveillance ships. Instead, China calls them weather balloons. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to China early February was cancelled in the height of these spying accusations between Beijing and Washington. Blinken even refused to meet Qin Gang, his Chinese counterpart, while both were in New Delhi for the G20 foreign ministers meeting. His boss, Wang Yi, instead made a dash across Europe. In fact, in the 30-odd meetings that Wang has had since his promotion back in November, half of it has been with European counterparts. In February, he rounded off an 8-day trip through Europe, which took him to Italy, Hungary, Germany, and Brussels. Wang was asked at the Munich Security Conference to condemn Russia's unilateral aggression on Ukraine by starting the war in February of 2022. Wang refused to do so, and that too in a room jam-packed with Europeans. You can imagine how that went down. And to rub it in, straight from Munich, he dashed off to Russia and had meetings with Putin and Lavrov. Qin Gang, on the other hand, the new foreign minister, he too has had very few official interactions with Western countries in that same period. Instead, the former ambassador to the United States concentrated his efforts on China's Asian neighbors as well as the developing world. His calls included half of the 10 countries that make up ASEAN, the grouping of countries in Southeast Asia. So he made calls to his counterparts in Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Cambodia, and Singapore, as well as South Korea and Japan. He also traveled to New Delhi for the G20 foreign ministers meeting. But it's not just the global stage where China is getting crammed in. There were domestic politics in the run-up to the annual parliament session, which didn't bode well for China's image as a business-friendly economy. On the 16th of February, high-profile investment banker Bao Fan disappeared, apparently detained by security agents. His firm, China Renaissance, told the Hong Kong Stock Exchange that it had been unable to contact Bao Fan. 10 days later, on the 26th of February, China Renaissance said that its board had become aware that Mr. Bao is currently cooperating in an investigation being carried out by certain authorities in the People's Republic of China. Bao was reportedly helping in an investigation into Chong Lin, the company's former president. Bao had recruited Chong in 2020 from ICBC, which happens to be one of the big four state-owned banks. In September 2022, Chong disappeared. He has since left all his positions, including his role as president of China Renaissance and the chairman of one of its subsidiary companies, Huajing Securities. Huajing was accused of violating securities law by Chinese authorities. But both Chong and Bao are not the only ones who have disappeared all of a sudden. Of course, those with whom the outside world has quote-unquote lost contact. It's called Shilian in Chinese. It's part of the Chinese lexicon. They range from human rights lawyers like Gao Zhisheng to celebrities like the actress Fan Bingbing and the tennis star Peng Shuai. But perhaps the most well-known and perhaps the most well-regarded is the case of Jack Ma, founder of Alibaba, one of China's biggest internet companies, who disappeared in late 2020 for 3 months. And this was just days before Alibaba's parent company, the Ant Group, was all set for the biggest IPO in the history of IPOs. This was just days after Ma had made a speech obliquely criticizing the Chinese government. There was also the case of Wang Jianlin, the founder of the Dalian Wanda Group, a conglomerate who has interests in real estate and entertainment. Wang was one of China's richest people. However, his company was hit hard by government restrictions on overseas investments. He also faced increased scrutiny over his personal finances. Wang reportedly stepped down from his leadership positions at the Wanda Group, and the company has had to sell off many of its assets. China doesn't officially release the number of millionaires who have left the country or have given up Chinese citizenship, but some estimates say that post the pandemic, as many as over 100,000 Chinese millionaires and billionaires have left China every year since 2020. Now, this year, 2023, was meant to be the year that Xi Jinping kick-started the economy in an attempt to return to the glory days of double-digit growth. His emphasis was innovation, courting foreign investment, emphasizing the technology sector. In fact, Xi, at the Central Economic Work Conference back in December, said that the key is to boost confidence. But China, at the start of the Lianghui, the twin sessions, has had to revise downwards its growth target for 2023. The target now is just 5%, which is the lowest in 30 years. Unfortunately for Xi Jinping and for China, the year of the rabbit has not gotten off to such a great start, both at home and abroad.